Everyone has that one quirky buddy who enjoys bizarre pastimes that others find odd. But another reason we adore them is their individuality. Sydney Smith, often known as Giraffe Girl, spent years bending her neck with metal bands to resemble her beloved animal, a giraffe. However, she abruptly came to a stop. She looks quite different today, but before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. For Sydney Smith of Los Angeles, the desire for a long neck wasn't just some passing phase. It had been a fascination since she was in middle school, and one that lasted well into adulthood. The funny thing was, she had gained the nickname Giraffe Neck long before she had ever decided to embark on her personal journey of beauty. When she was young, her classmates had teased her about having a longer neck than anyone in the school. Sydney also remembered seeing the tribal women of Thailand and Burma in National Geographic. The image of their elongated necks through the use of rings was utterly fascinating. On top of it all, her favorite animal was the giraffe. It was like the perfect combination. Her parents, however, stood in her way. They passed it off as teenage nonsense, something that would go away in time. But for many years, Sydney would stare longingly at those tribal photos. The odd thing was, when she came of age and was legally allowed to make her own choices, she wasn't ready to dive in until she saw one particular singer's dress. It was Lady Gaga and her infamous meat dress. Sydney remembered seeing the crazy outfit and how the beautiful woman never apologized for her looks or fashion choices. It was the final push she needed, and with the help of a friend who specialized in body modification, she added the first few rings. She didn't care that the soldering left a few burn marks or that each new addition of a brass ring would cause pain, not to mention the entire collection weight in a 5 pounds. Her fame started in her hometown and quickly spread through her documentation of the process through her social media accounts. Next came a flood of modeling offers. After all, it wasn't a common sight out of a tribal setting. Sydney was sitting on cloud 9 and loving every moment. That is until the last few rings started to affect her in unforeseen ways. It had been 5 years, and she didn't want to slow down at all. But the rings ended up hindering movement and making it hard for her to keep up to speed in her regular marketing job. She had a new, very hard choice to make. She couldn't swim or hike anymore. She loved her long neck, but after months of contemplation, she finally decided to take off the rings. It wasn't long until she was sitting in her friend's salon, listening to the glue sizzling away. But what would she look like? Her neck was indeed long, and she utterly loved it, but the bruising that was hidden underneath was shocking. On top of that, her neck muscles were very weak. She needed help. While the young girls of Southeast Asia had elongated necks because Sydney had started as an adult, her transformation was very different. Instead of growing a longer neck, she had been pulling down her collarbone and compressing her ribcage. Thankfully, the doctor had some good news. Through a chiropractor and other specialists, she would slowly regain the strength in her neck. Also, the rest of her body would go back to normal. Sadly, her title of Giraffe Woman would slowly fade. But did she regret her 5-year journey? Sydney Smith proudly tells the world that she had no regrets. She decided to go after what she wanted in her life, experienced it, and dealt with the happiness and pain it brought. The world wanted to know how Sydney would move forward. Everyone thought it was going to be some kind of beauty, trend, or fixation. But no, more than anything, she planned to devote her time loving and cherishing her husband and daughter, Skylar Rose, who was born in 2017. There was no part of her journey that she regretted. No matter what direction Sydney took, it can be said that she had stirred up a lot of controversy as her time being the Giraffe Girl. A lot of people spoke their minds on the topic. Many people were concerned about the example Sydney was setting for impressionable youths. But that raises the question, how safe is it? And what effects does it leave on an individual? Well, some medical professionals decided to speak their minds too. Sydney's case had good news, and she recovered from her bruising and weak muscles left from the rings. But that's just the thing. It's unnatural, as one medical expert pointed out. Other experts even started to unravel the illusion that Sydney had a long neck because that wasn't the case. Experts swiftly brought the hammer down on anyone who was enamored by Sydney's long neck. It's not making her neck any longer. The rings are pushing her collarbones down at a 45-degree angle. Her neck is the same length, but her collarbones are being collapsed. Cried out another professional. People like this started pleading with people online not to do what Sydney did. Some people, on the other side, don't wear neck rings because they persuade beauty. It was for more sinister reasons. Sydney may have been using neck rings out of her volition, but many others aren't so lucky. In places like Myanmar, wearing neck rings that may collapse one's collarbone and ribs is enforced for one of the pettiest reasons. Jennifer Hennings, Ph.D., is a humanitarian and part of the IRC. She works for a non-profit organization in the hopes that they can abolish violence in places like Myanmar, formerly known as Burma. When Jennifer saw Sydney's case, she quickly hopped online to give her expert opinion on the circumstances. What she had to say had the internet in disbelief. A huge factor for many countries that most people don't think about is tourism. Tourism is an immensely important economic factor that the government needs to take full advantage of. This is why most countries sell souvenirs and builds attractions to get people into their country. It can be so profitable in some places that people resort to seedy tactics in order to get more people to visit their shops and stalls. Even though the government isn't to blame, it is private business owners who seek to exploit the culture around them to get more people to look at their unique way of living. Neck rings have a huge cultural significance in Myanmar. Women have been using neck rings to seek beauty for centuries, but in some cases, it's being forced on some who wouldn't want them at all. Jennifer summarized in a comment she left, "While many still partake in this aspect of their culture happily and willingly, there are others, especially the youngest generation, who don't want to carry on the tradition. But because of the pressures of tourism, these young women are encouraged and sometimes forced by their elders to wear them. Because of these cases, I don't think that wearing neck rings should be encouraged, not when people are being forced to wear them." Jennifer carried on. Jennifer's words online were harsh but spoke the truth, but this only added gasoline to an already burning fire about the topic online. People would come out of the woodwork to tell Jennifer exactly what they thought. Some people seemed to understand the sensitive issue, some were still on the fence, and some seemed oblivious to the point Jennifer was making. This issue wouldn't die down for weeks. This doctor, or whatever she is, makes sense. Let's not spread awareness about this so-called beauty product that actually ends up hurting people and disrespecting the cultural beliefs of another country. One user wrote, "But not all people understand the subtlety required for a situation as delicate as this one. One individual didn't seem to understand at all. Why should we care about something like this? People have been doing what they want in this country forever. This is America, the land of the free. Just leave Americans alone and let us do what we want with our bodies." The commenter carried on, "This lady doctor sounds like she's European and doesn't understand our cultural beliefs. Leave us alone, lady." Some people seem to understand both sides of the argument and rather sit on the fence than make a stand on either side. Well, this seems like a really complicated issue. Maybe it is disrespectful, but if she really wants to do it, then she'll do it. No one can stop people from doing stupid things. They carried on, "If people will do things anyway, then there's no point in trying to make a stand on either side of the fence, in my opinion." But are there bigger issues at hand? Cultural appropriation can be a big issue when the tradition or individual group of people is damaged, and means less when something they hold special is adopted by the masses. An example is white people adopting dreadlocks. This is often a great spark of controversy. So, would they adopt potentially dangerous neck rings to honor their cultural roots or disrespect the tradition entirely? It's a difficult topic to discuss. No matter if these are adopted by the masses or not, people need to respect the cultural backstory of the item. Myanmar's people have been using them for centuries, and they should always be looked at as the original adopters. Even if these rings can pose health risks, people will do nearly anything in the pursuit of beauty. Sydney Smith was a woman unlike any other. Her childhood fascination with giraffes and their long necks bordered on obsession. Her parents never addressed her fixation, which only grew stronger with time. As an adult, Sydney began researching ways to elongate her neck and discovered the cultural practice of wearing neck rings, a tradition far removed from her own background. Without hesitation, she underwent the ring procedure, thrilled by her new appearance. She felt unique and admired the transformation. But her excitement faded when Dr. Jennifer Hennings, a respected cultural anthropologist, confronted her about cultural appropriation. Dr. Hennings explained that the practice, though meaningful in specific cultures, was not a fashion accessory to be used out of context. Sydney had never thought of it as disrespectful, only as a personal expression of beauty. Feeling ashamed, Sydney reached out to Dr. Hennings, who agreed to help her understand the cultural roots of neck elongation. Together, they visited communities where the practice held deep meaning. Sydney learned how sacred the tradition was and realized her actions had been misguided. She publicly apologized and promised to educate others. Though some dismissed her as being politically correct, Sydney wanted to prove her sincerity. She chose to remove the rings, a symbolic gesture showing genuine remorse and growth. Her neck was bruised for a few days, but she felt no regret. Her experiences opened her eyes to the importance of cultural respect and gave her a deeper appreciation for global diversity. She came to realize that freedom didn't mean doing whatever one wanted. It meant understanding the impact of actions on others and respecting their traditions. Her physical transformation mirrored her personal evolution. Sydney used her platform to speak out about cultural appropriation. By admitting her mistakes, she inspired others to think more critically about their own behavior. She became a voice for cultural sensitivity. Her openness earned her respect. People appreciated her honesty and admired her courage to reverse her decision. She became a symbol of growth and the positive impact of accountability. Sydney rediscovered her self-worth and let go of the need to alter her body to feel special. Friends noticed she seemed happier, and her boyfriend wanted to reconnect. Sydney began to love her natural body again. She embraced who she was and found strength in authenticity rather than appearance. She stayed close with Dr. Hennings, who joined her in speaking at universities and conventions. Sydney found purpose through advocacy, spreading awareness and understanding. Some still recognize her as the Giraffe Lady and ask for photos. She doesn't mind, it's part of her story. But what matters most is that she had the courage to change. She made a bigger difference by being herself than by imitating someone else. In order to protect the privacy of those depicted, some names, locations, and identifying characteristics have been changed and are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblances to actual events, places, or persons, living or dead, are entirely coincidental.